What's going on, folks? Thanks for hitting that download button and checking out a brand new episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade, your one-stop shop for toys, tech, and talk with some assembly required. I'm your host, Rich Butler, and if this is your first time joining us for an episode, first of all, welcome. Second of all, a bit about what we do here. Toys and Tech of the Trade is an interview series where we sit down with content creators, entrepreneurs, and just kick-ass people on our radar and share the gadgets, gear, and technology that they use to run their businesses, create their content, or just make their lives a little easier. Now, when it comes to toys, it's not just about action figures, Funko Pops, and any of the usual stuff, but we dive into other things that many people don't consider toys, but they are to some people. Cars, trucks, guns, knives, guitar picks, power tools. You'd be surprised what people obsess and collect over and consider their toys, and we embrace that broad definition here on this show. Before we get into this week's guest, a bit of an announcement. If you didn't check out our other episode with Preston Hudman, I'm going to repeat the message I shared on that episode here. And that is that we will not be releasing an episode on July 17th. That is the reason why you are getting 2 episodes this week. The reasoning for that is obviously there's some traveling and some stuff going on, which is going to impact the release schedule for an episode for that week. Of course, that may be subject to change, but as of the release of this episode, there will not be an episode on July 17th. All right, with that bit of housekeeping out of the way, let's get into this week's guest. My guest this week is Megan Amo. She is the strategic marketing designer for the Society for the Promotion of Japanese Animation, SPJA, and they are the brand behind the Anime Expo, which actually is kicking off July 3rd, which is when you're probably going to be hearing this episode, and runs through the July 4th holiday into the weekend. Megan started her career as a volunteer at the Anime Expo and went from being a volunteer to being an employee. And more importantly, it's a great story about following your passions, doing what you love, and it paying off and becoming your career. It's a great story, and I really enjoyed the conversation with Megan. We not only obviously got insight into her origin story and how she got to SPJA and obviously her volunteer work, but we also discussed anime, toys, video games, and all that cool stuff as well. So without any further ado, let's turn it over to Megan and learn more about the toys and tech of her trade. Meg, thank you for taking the time to sit down with us and share a little bit about the toys and tech of your trade.
Yeah, so happy to be here.
So let me start off with something very, very interesting that I was told as we were preparing for this call. You started with the Anime Expo as a volunteer and then made your way as becoming a full-fledged employee?
Yes, that is correct.
And just talk us through that a little bit. What made you want to volunteer for that particular event, and how did you parlay that into a full-time career?
So I started attending Anime Expo in 2004. Which is quite some time ago, and I'd been attending for many, many years since then. Made a lot of friends at the convention, other attendees, and also volunteers. And because I became friends with volunteers, I kind of learned about that side of the event. And eventually they kind of got my older sister into volunteering. And then eventually I got into volunteering. And it just is a very different experience from attending. And I knew that I was really interested in marketing field.
Okay.
And so when an opportunity came up to volunteer in something marketing related at Anime Expo, I went and jumped on it. I pretty much... After I graduated from college, I had no job, so I just volunteered at Anime Expo because, it was in July, and, I graduated in May, so I thought, why not just kind of do this for now and see if anything happens. At least if anything, I'll learn a lot and have a really good experience. And then evidently they thought I did a good job, so hired me later that year.
Wow, that's crazy, especially because you go in as a volunteer, and I'm assuming you went in because as a fan of the genre, I'm assuming that you thought, "Hey, this is great. I get to have my cake and eat it too," right?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, definitely to kind of be a part of the event that I grew up attending. And the event to me, having grown up, through middle school and high school attending Anime Expo, it really meant a lot to me. I met a lot of really good friends who liked anime and, got to hang out with them every year. So then to kind of go and be part of, making things happen was definitely a really cool experience and something that I never take for granted, even to this very day.
Now, a little bit about the volunteer work when you were doing that. How was a typical day? Were your duties diversified? Did you have a particular area where you'd have to report to? How was volunteering for a convention versus working as a full-on employee? Just a little bit of background for that.
Yeah, so at Anime Expo, we have over 60 different departments and over 1,500 volunteers.
Wow.
That make Anime Expo possible. Anime Expo is run by a nonprofit organization. So the volunteers really, they are a big part of the event, a really big part of the heart of Anime Expo. So volunteers definitely have very specific responsibilities, whether it's answering questions from attendees in the info booths or kind of handling line control. So you kind of have a really specific role. And since becoming an employee, I've definitely worn a lot of different hats and done a lot of different things.
Now, when you transitioned to full-fledged employee, what did they give you a particular title, or as you said, are you just spread across a few different departments?
So when I first started, I was primarily brought on for social media.
Okay.
Handling just the kind of communications and sort of customer service aspect of social media. And since then, I have my role has grown, and I now oversee not only the social media, but a lot of the creative development, art development, creative direction, the merchandising, production and development. And, there's also opportunities where we can kind of even develop some new ideas for content or cool things at Anime Expo.
Now, with it being organized by a non-for-profit, I know that has its own hurdles as well, especially when you have so many conventions popping up on such a consistent basis. What makes Anime Expo stand out in that field? Because think about it, especially on the West Coast, there's so many, obviously San Diego being the big elephant in the room. How does a non-for-profit that organizes an event like this find a way to stand out versus some of these other larger events that are so mainstream nowadays?
Well, at Anime Expo, we definitely focus on the community and making sure that the attendees have a good time. So we want to focus on what they want, what we do best, and I would say that is what really sets Anime Expo apart, is that it's not just an industry show. It's an annual celebration. It's a gathering, a family gathering, so to speak, where our attendees come and meet their friends. A lot of times people make friends online and then maybe they would not meet for the first time in person until Anime Expo.
Right.
And it's really an honor to be able to put together an event that means so much to people and makes an impact on their lives. And, I have this story. There was someone from the East Coast, I don't remember where, and he, had a lot of friends online. They're all planning to go to Anime Expo. A bunch of them are kind of local, and he'd never been. And they actually all pitched in to help cover his travel costs so that he could come to Anime Expo and they could all meet and for the first time in person and enjoy the show.
That's a very cool thing to do. I mean, that's the thing sometimes that a lot of people lose sight of. Obviously, the internet sometimes can be a cruel and vicious place, but other times there's some really cool things that happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, the preparation for an event of this magnitude, how do you start planning for an event like this? Do you start planning for next year's event this year, or is there a particular structure you and your team follow?
So right after Anime Expo ends, we pretty much get right back to work on the next year.
Okay.
We take a look at how that year went, what worked, what could have been a little bit better, and we really examine thoroughly just everything that happened, and then from there kind of research and develop ways that we can improve.
Are there any metrics that you rely on for that type of research?
It really depends on the different areas of the convention.
Okay.
We do definitely value feedback from our attendees. We have a survey that we send out after our event. Of course, there's so many different opinions and feedback that we receive. So it takes a lot of time to go through all the responses because we get thousands of responses. And a lot of times, feedback can be really contradictory. Like, maybe you will get people say, oh, make Artist Alley bigger. And then other people will say, make Artist Alley smaller. And, or sometimes people will ask us to do things that are just not feasible because we're not magicians. Like, right. People will ask us, make the rooms bigger. And it's like, I don't know how we're supposed to do that because there's a physically defined space.
Yep.
So we, definitely look at all the feedback and we're never satisfied with just keeping the status quo. We always want to innovate and bring something new and exciting to our attendees that will be of value to them, such as, for example, we're the first convention to offer photo sets for cosplayers. These kind of really, big, professionally built set pieces, because we recognize that a lot of people really love to cosplay at Anime Expo, and they put so much effort and hard work into their amazing costumes. And sometimes there isn't always a great place to take a photo of them. So, we have like a sci-fi set, a Japanese train car, a classroom set, all to really help support our attendees.
That's phenomenal. That's very, very awesome. I think that one of the high points, especially as cosplaying is becoming more mainstream, I feel like within the last 5 to 6 years, cosplay is now, I don't want to say it's the norm because that's a misnomer, but I feel that it's just more widely regarded and people really appreciate the work that goes into a lot of these elaborate costumes.
Yeah, I would definitely say that cosplay has become more well known, and the word itself, cosplay. I remember when, most people outside of the convention scene didn't even know what it meant. But nowadays, I would say most everyone knows what it means, and that's really exciting. And because so many more people are aware of cosplay, we actually started a program called the Cosplay Senpai program. Senpai being, if you're not familiar, a term that kind of refers to an upperclassman or kind of a senior person in your life, like in Japanese. And the purpose of the Cosplay Senpai program is basically to communicate the message that anyone and everyone can cosplay, no matter what shape, size, gender, color, age, religion, no matter what, anyone and everyone can cosplay. And it's really all about having fun. And we actually introduced that program a couple of years back. And to this day, to my knowledge, there's no other convention that is doing anything similar.
Well, I think that a big part of it, especially because there's so many different subgenres of anime, that to being able to embrace the cosplay community, I mean it's pivotal to the event's success, because again, the cosplayers, they obviously are a tight community as well, and if you offer a safe space for them to showcase their costumes, the elaborate sets, it really becomes more inviting for them. And it also makes them want to showcase some of the really, really hard work that they put into some of these costumes, especially the real elaborate stuff.
Absolutely. And, at Anime Expo, it's definitely about having that safe and welcoming space for attendees, whether they cosplay or not. And that's why it's really important to us to make sure we're doing whatever we can to, make sure people know that anyone and everyone can cosplay, and that we're making sure that that Anime Expo is a safe and welcoming space.
Now, with regards to cosplay and just the event itself, I know that obviously there's always I don't want to say premier cosplays, but more widely regarded ones. How do you factor in that type of a skill set when you want to bring someone in as a featured guest? Because I think one of the toughest things for a lot of conventions, and you can address this more in detail, is when it comes to booking certain guests, having certain featured individuals. How do you vet who's going to be there and who's going to be represented?
So to clarify, you're asking about how we go about selecting our cosplay senpai?
Yes.
One of the things that we really look for in potential cosplay senpai is their impact on the community.
Okay.
Are they making a positive impact on the community right now? And that's something that is really, really important to us, whether they are providing resources, tutorials, doing panels, just anything that really makes a positive impact on the community. And of course, we also want to look for a wide variety of people to represent the Cosplay Senpai program, because that's the whole mission. That's right. The whole message.
You want representation to be across the spectrum in that case.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely. I mean, cosplay is for everyone. And how can you communicate a message that cosplay is for everyone if you don't show that cosplay is for everyone?
100%. And I think that's something that in our current climate, everybody wants to offer something for everyone, but sometimes there's a level of barrier for certain people, some more than others. So the fact that you strive to create this community, especially with the Senpai program, is just tremendous. I think that that's probably one of the things that is really positive about this event, is the fact that you're fostering such a strong community, because at the end of the day, the community is what drives the success of the event, because a friend will tell a friend will tell a friend.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for recognizing that.
Yeah, I think that's something that, especially in this, in our current climate, like I said, where I feel like there's a convention popping up every week. Nowadays, there's especially, I live in New York, so yeah, the New York area, there's always a convention popping up somewhere, and it's always one of those things where you kind of get convention fatigue. But the fact that you and your team are trying to create something that is just bigger than the convention itself is definitely a classy move.
Thank you very much. We also support all the other conventions across the U.S. SPJA, which is a nonprofit that runs Anime Expo, also runs a B2B conference called Project Anime. And one of the goals of Project Anime is to help support other anime conventions all across the U.S. and even around the world by sharing resources, providing best practices. And, the goal is just to help make all of the anime events, help equip them with information to make their events better.
What's the toughest challenge you experience when preparing for an event of this scale? What's the toughest part for you?
One of the biggest challenges would be communication and probably just managing expectations. With such a big event, there's just so much going on, and communicating that to everyone it's definitely takes a lot of time and effort. And I know that there's just so many things to do at Anime Expo that not everyone could even physically do it all. And it can be a little bit overwhelming because there's so much to do and so much to prepare for and different different people maybe need different information.
Right.
Exhibitors need different information from panelists, and it is a lot of information.
Do you feel that there is a strong expectation for diversity in terms of what's being offered at the convention? What I mean is that let's use I'll use just for local, like New York Comic Con. The backbone of New York Comic Con is comic books, but now as we all know, it's grown beyond that into movies and TV shows and video games, etc. Do you find yourself sometimes trying to make sure that you don't veer too far away, meaning that if you're going to be doing a convention that focuses on anime and the community of anime, and then someone wants to come and promote X video game or Y video game, do you guys find yourselves either trying to not go that route and add some of those other things, or is that something where you feel it'll add to the event itself?
The core mission for SPJA, the Society for the Promotion of Japanese Animation, is to promote Japanese animation and really inspire the world through Japanese animation and pop culture. So, we always use that as a guiding factor when curating content for our event.
Right.
And, that being said, with the way the industry has been growing and expanding, the definition of anime is kind of changing. And there are definitely a lot of titles that are produced with international teams. And just because, for example, Porter Robinson is an American artist, and his music video for Shelter is produced by an anime studio.
Right.
And some people might argue that's not anime, and some people might argue it is. But at the end of the day, our attendees really enjoy that kind of content.
Okay.
And we want to make sure that they have a good experience. And, we're always mindful that it's going to be something that fits with the overall content and theme of our event. But we're also flexible because, the industry is so international and global.
It's very vast, and especially because it's like you said, a lot of people are dipping their toes in the pool, so to speak, with video games based on certain animes, soundtracks. More comic book stores are starting to sell manga. So there's a bigger presence, but I also feel like I was saying that a lot of conventions sometimes they get so caught up in wanting to create a buzz that they start losing sight of what brought them to the dance in the first place. So I think that that the approach that SPJA is adopting is the right way to do things, because at the end of the day, anime is the backbone, and by being that open with it and allowing certain things to be showcased to your audience, like you said, there's always going to be like the feedback is going to dictate where the next steps are. So I think that if you guys started doing more, too big of a video game presence or something else, your audience would definitely let you know.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have a lot of different types of content showcased at Anime Expo. Besides just anime, there's a lot of video games, music, fashion, and we have continuously had positive feedback from our attendees. And it's also an opportunity for, Japanese musicians to become known, because, you watch anime and there's the opening theme songs and the ending theme songs, and then maybe you think, oh, this sounds pretty cool. Let me check out some of their other work. And then before you know it, you're a fan of that artist.
Absolutely.
And that's like a really cool opportunity as well.
Yeah, I think that crossover appeal and just the ability for someone to find out, like you said, just about a certain artist or even a certain anime or a certain voice actor. I think that's massive, and I think it just adds to the appeal of an event of this scale.
Absolutely, and we're really excited to be able to showcase, these brand new content, or we're really honored to host a lot of musicians' first performance in the US. This year we have renowned anime and game composer Yoshihiro Ek, whose work includes Tiger and Bunny and Saint Seiya and Shadowverse. He'll be making his debut international performance at Anime Expo, and it's just really cool to be able to provide this kind of really unique content that really is not available anywhere else in the US.
Now, taking place over the July 4th weekend, I know that it's not every day I read that a convention is taking place during, especially on a holiday. How do you account for that? Because obviously people travel. Were you concerned that there would be a drop in attendance for something like that with the holiday coming into play, or is it the other side of the coin where the amount of people may be larger than expected because so many people are off for the holiday?
There are some challenges with being on a holiday. That being said, Anime Expo has always been on July 4th weekend.
Right.
And at this point, it's definitely been like a part of our event identity, so to speak. It's really a tradition. And there's also a lot of benefits to being on a July 4th weekend holiday. Like you were saying, people already have time off from work. And so it makes it easier to travel. But, given the way our attendance has grown over the last few years, we don't see that there's been any kind of negative effect to being on July 4th weekend.
Nice. There you go. Let's we're going to jump into the hot seat. It's going to be just a series of rapid fire questions off the cuff. It's going to encompass some of the stuff we've talked about and then some other stuff as well.
Okay.
All right. So first question, what was the first anime you watched?
The first anime I watched was Sailor Moon, and my sister bought it, movies in Japanese with subtitles.
Right.
And I was 5 or 6 years old, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is too fast. I can't read it. It's too fast. And then my sister said, well, learn how to read faster. So I learned how to read fast because of Sailor Moon.
Wow, that's a hell of a way to do it. So you picked up two things. Number one, a favorite anime. Number two, an extra skill. As someone who oversees certain social aspects, obviously your technology is a big part of it. Are you a desktop or laptop user?
Laptop user.
What do you use?
Like the brand?
Yeah. What laptop?
Our company issues Dell laptops.
Oh, wow. You're one of the few people who I've asked that question that doesn't say a MacBook.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, well, MacBooks, they don't work very well with shared drive technology. Because shared drives are Windows based.
Yep. Absolutely. But I'd want to say within the last, 7 or 8 guests, it's been MacBook Pro, iMac. So it's refreshing to hear that somebody else is using Windows for their work.
Oh, that's interesting.
There you go. Now, with that said, is your mobile device an Apple device or not?
It is not.
Oh,
both my work and personal phone are Androids, although other employees do have an option of iPhone or Android.
Okay. And do you like the Android ecosystem? Is it more conducive to your work?
Yes.
Nice. Okay. So now, obviously, tying into that, when you open your phone to start your day, where's the first place you go?
At work?
Yeah, when you unlock your phone to start your day. First app you
probably
go to.
Social media.
and
to make sure I didn't miss any questions from attendees.
And what's your social media of choice? Are you Twitter, Facebook, Instagram? Which do you prefer?
Which do I prefer? I like all of them for different reasons.
It's funny because when people answer that, it's always either very driven to the kind of work that they do or very driven to how they disconnect from their work. Like some people like taking photos, so Instagram becomes their thing. So
interesting. Well, I would have to say for someone who works in marketing and social media, I don't post a lot on social media.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that
I always tell myself I should post more. And then, especially right now, it's so busy that I just don't even have time.
Well, in a way, I gotta say, you're living in the moment, so that's not all bad.
This is true.
You get to enjoy the experiences and not worry about documenting each and every one of them.
Absolutely.
What's your favorite piece of technology besides your phone or your computer?
My PlayStation 4.
Nice. What are you playing currently?
I'm not currently playing right now because I've been too busy. But I'm in the middle of Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep.
Oh, wow. They did such a great job with that game.
I've been trying to finish, all the Kingdom Hearts games before I do Kingdom Hearts 3.
Nice. That's the way to do it. Are you excited about where Sony's going with the next PlayStation? Are you going to be one of the people that's going to early adopt, or are you going to hold out and squeeze as much as you can out of your PS4?
I will probably hold out and use my PS4 for as long as I can.
Nice. What was the first video game you played?
Kingdom Hearts.
Really?
Yes. Well, I mean, first console video game. Before that was Pokemon Red.
There you go.
Does that count too?
Absolutely. Pokemon is a vice for many of us. I mean, here I am. Sometimes I'll go out and I'll still play Pokemon Go on my phone. So that's definitely still a thing.
Yeah. Did you know that we're hosting an exclusive screening of the newest Pokemon movie?
No, I did not know that. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, and it's going to be in Japanese with the Japanese voice actress for Ash.
Oh,
present.
People are going to love that.
Yeah, we're super excited about it.
That's tremendous. What is something you've purchased recently that is less than $100 that's made your life easier or more enjoyable?
What have I purchased recently that's made my life easier or more enjoyable?
Yep. Could be anything. Less than $100.
I recently purchased something for work that was less than $100. It's a flag and a flag holder. Because for Anime Expo, when we open the exhibit hall, we actually have a ribbon cutting ceremony.
Oh, okay.
And, the ribbon is cut by a special guest. And then we have taiko drummers playing when it first opens, and it's super exciting and fun. And signaling the taiko drummers is a little bit challenging because I'm short. I'm like 5 feet tall.
Okay.
and they're probably like 200 feet away, and there's a lot of people in front of me. So I bought a 3 by 5 foot flag. So hopefully they will see me more easily this year, so I can signal them to start playing.
There you go. So we've talked about the tech. Obviously we got to talk a little bit about toys because that's what we talk about here too. What was your favorite toy growing up?
Favorite toy growing up? Oh, I have not thought about the toys that I used growing up in a long time. Well, I played with Barbies.
Okay.
I always wanted an Easy Bake Oven, but I never got one because I was too shy to ask my parents. Yeah, I guess I was kind of a doll person.
Okay.
As a kid, and stuffed animals. I did like stuffed animals a lot too.
Now, being so immersed in anime culture, did you buy any collectibles based on any of your favorite anime?
Yes, I held out for a very long time on starting to buy figurines because I knew once I bought one, that wouldn't be the last one. So I primarily like to collect Nendroids.
Oh, nice.
Because they're super cute, and the one that got me, the first one, was Cardcaptor Sakura.
Okay.
I don't have very many of them. Actually, I have a pretty large Tsum Tsum collection, too.
Oh, all right. Yeah, the Tsum Tsums become very, very addicting because it's such a low barrier of entry.
Yeah, absolutely. Although Disney hasn't really been making as many now, but it seems like there's more anime plushies that are made in a similar style, so I'll probably end up collecting those, too.
Nice. That's very, very cool. If somebody asked you to recommend them an anime currently to watch, what would you recommend?
One that is airing right now,
or just a favorite of yours that you've seen recently.
Probably JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Although it's not for everyone.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. That is 100% sure. I remember the first time a few years back I tried to watch it. I'm like, I can't do it because somebody had lent me they had done a video game for it.
Mhm.
And I was like, all right, this is kind of cool. And then I tried to watch it. I'm like, I don't know.
But the good thing about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is the different arcs do have like different feels to them. So, kind of depending on what you're more interested in, maybe one JoJo arc is a better fit for you, to kind of start with than
Right.
say starting from the beginning.
Absolutely. I think that is a great approach for it. I think, that's a solid recommendation. I was unsure if I was curious if you were going to recommend Sailor Moon as well, but you surprised me.
I have very varied interest in anime.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of, I've been watching Dragon Ball Super lately, and I really just got into One Punch Man. So much so that I ended up like buying a figure of him from my office.
Nice.
So yeah, I've been kind of going through that, and I just recently started like binge watching My Hero Academia, and
My Hero Academia is really good.
Oh my God, it's so
I
tremendous.
should have recommended My Hero Academia.
It's so good, and as somebody who grew up reading comic books, I see so many great like comic book tones in the anime that it's just a stellar watch.
You know what I love about My Hero Academia is it explores themes that you don't see in comic books.
Agreed.
Namely really examining why people want to be heroes or why people want to be villains. And I feel like in comic books, you just kind of are thrown into it and you don't really get a choice.
Right.
So it's a really unique idea to be exploring in My Hero Academia.
When I first started watching, I remember I was like, when they introduced Bakugo, I was like, wow, he's so gonna be a villain, and he's not. It's just he's kind of a reflection of most anti-heroes that you grow up becoming a fan of. So like seeing that initially, I was really thrown for a curveball with that show, and I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, My Hero Academia is definitely very popular, and we're really honored to have been able to host the world premiere or the premiere of the movie last year. And then this year we're premiering the season 4.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah. And that doesn't air until October. So it's super exciting and special to be able to showcase that at Anime Expo. And then just the experience of being in a room, with thousands of other fans. It's just so different than kind of watching it at home.
It's funny you say that. I went to a screening here when they did Dragon Ball Resurrection F, and I had never seen like Dragon Ball in a movie theater. I've been watching Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z and everything else, just at home and tape trading back in the old days. And to see like people like genuinely excited for transformations and certain characters being on screen, it was so cool, because that's something I usually see if I go to see the Avengers or something of that scale. But to see that for anime, I ended up seeing Broly at a screening just at like midnight or 2 a.m. and people were just super excited, and like when Broly came on screen, people went crazy. I was like, am I in the right place? Like it was just so refreshing and so fun to see, especially because it's not often you get to see anime features like that, and I mean real anime ones on the big screen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very cool to see that more and more anime movies are available in theaters. Like pretty much every month there's something playing, and going to see these screenings, it's really more of like an experience and kind of a gathering of fans too, which is really cool.
Absolutely. If you could have dinner with someone, dead or alive, who would it be? What would you talk about, and what would you eat?
Who would I have dinner with? In all the time that I've been doing this, I don't really think too much about any of like the celebrities or talent that I meet. So I don't know. This is really hard.
What's funny about that question though? You don't have to be relegated to a celebrity. It could be a family member. It could be just. Yeah. I always like to give that because everyone's answer is so different. some people can say, Gandhi, or some people can say an actor, or, their grandparent who they never got to meet. So
I was actually thinking that when you said it didn't have to be a celebrity, I was thinking probably my grandparent.
Okay.
That I never got to meet. Yeah, on my mom's side, I'm like the youngest, and she was the youngest. So
Right.
just because of like that big, the age gaps, I never got to meet her parents.
Okay. And what would you ask them? What would you want to talk about?
I would like to kind of ask them about their lives, and I would eat Filipino food. If possible, I would probably ask my grandmother to cook.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's no, I mean,
I definitely eat Filipino food because it's, the whole is connecting with roots and family.
Absolutely. I've had some Filipino dishes, not too many. I had a coworker, I remember he bought balut into the office. I didn't know what to do with myself when he showed it to me. I'm like, I can't eat that, but it was just crazy like that. But, being Hispanic myself, there's so many parallels between Filipino cuisine and Spanish food that, when there's a Filipino place close by, and when I go in there, it's like, oh, we do the rice and chicken, and I'm like, oh, it's similar to how we do rice and chicken. So it's funny to see so many parallels in that.
Yeah, there's some great Filipino restaurants in New York that have opened up in the last few years.
Nice. Last question: where would you like to see Anime Expo a year from now? What's a goal that you would like for the event to accomplish?
Let's see. My goals for the event are just kind of being able to do things better and earlier every year.
Okay.
And I would love to work with more artists for our, like program guide cover art, our merchandise art. It's a really great opportunity to give back to the community. So I would definitely want to keep doing that. Keep working with artists, whether they're American or Japanese or both. These last couple of years, we have worked with some artists who are, in our artist alley. This year's program guide features art from the original character designer of our mascots. And last year's art, I have a really good story. So I didn't know this when I decided to work with this artist. She goes by Lucid Sky.
Okay.
I just thought her style, kind of looked like it fit with Anime Expo style. And when I asked her for like some information about kind of her story and how, her experience attending Anime Expo, she told me that Anime Expo was the first convention that she traveled to go be a part of because she's from Minnesota.
Okay.
And she didn't know what to expect from that event. So she sold out a product really fast. And so she went to the Staples down the street to print more art pieces. And while she was there, she saw another person with an Artist Alley badge who is in the same predicament that she is in. And they got to talking, and fast forward a couple years later, and they are now married.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a hell of a story then, you go there to work and you end up meeting your soulmate. That's an awesome way to bring things full circle. Last question, which is our reach one, teach one, just to give our listeners some additional value. What's one piece of advice for someone that's looking to transition, much like you did, from the volunteer space into working for a convention, whether at the front office or organizing their own?
Well, I'd say definitely get involved. Get involved with conventions, with events, get your feet wet, get experience. And, first off, find out if it's something that you really if it's really the good fit for you. Because to be frank, event running is very stressful. I think if you look at those lists of most stressful jobs, event planning is up there. I love it, but I don't think it's for everyone. So definitely try it out. Anything that you're interested in, try it out. If you have opportunities to do internships, do them. so that you can just get experience and see if you like doing that thing or not. Yeah, just get involved and be proactive.
Okay. And last but not least, if people wanted to keep up with you, where could they find you?
Follow Anime Expo on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Anime Expo.
All right.
And if they wanted to follow me, even though I said I don't post a lot.
That's me helping you out.
Huh?
That's me throwing you a line.
Yeah, my handle is Megwa Love, MEGWALOV.
And that's on which ones?
On Twitter and Instagram.
Awesome. Well, Meg, I really thank you for taking the time to sit down with us and share the toys and tech of your trade.
Thank you very much for having me.
That wraps up our conversation with Megan Amo. To find out more about the Society for the Promotion of Japanese Animation, as well as the Anime Expo, make sure to check out the links in the show notes for this episode. If you want to follow Megan, give her some love, and help her grow her followers, I'll make sure to include links to Megan's social media accounts as well. We're also going to include links for the toys and tech that we discussed. As always, full disclosure, those may contain affiliate links, which if you click, we may receive a small commission, which of course goes towards making RageWorks and all of our platforms and shows bigger, better, and more awesome for you guys. If you'd like to be a guest on a future episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade and would like to share your story, you can email me, rich@rageworks.net. You can also use that email if you have any questions for future Q&A episodes or have any other feedback or concerns you would like us to address. Again, rich@rageworks.net. You can find us on social media via all the usual social media outlets. No need to rattle them off here. Links to them all will be in the show notes for this episode. Last but not least, a reminder that we will not be releasing an episode on July 17th. With that said, I hope you guys enjoy the 4th of July holiday if you're here in the U.S., and hopefully you guys have a safe, happy, and healthy 4th. We'll see you guys at the end of the month. Thanks for listening. Peace.